Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this afternoon. Today, we're going to be doing a presentation about the new budget what-if analysis. It's one of our new features in the new Denali 2020 version 1 update that we just released. Today is April 3rd, and your presenter today is Jeremy Bistline. That's me. Glad you're able to join us today. What we're going to talk about is the new budget what-if analysis. We're going to start with going over the budget management, just kind of giving you a brief overview on that to start with. Most of you that use the Denali General Ledger already have the budget management tool, but it does work directly with the new what-if analysis tool as well. So we're going to kind of go over that a little bit. Then we're going to get into the details of what the new what-if analysis tool does for you in helping you with your budget and your planning and your forecasting in the Denali General Ledger program. Following that, we'll talk about, once you've used the tool, how you can save the information that you've inputted into the new tool, how you can actually save that in your existing budget or create a new budget with that information, and also print out your budget report before you actually finalize the budget now. Following that, we'll wrap up the webinar with some information on how to access and utilize our new what-if analysis tool for budgeting. All right, so with that, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so in the Denali General Ledger, we've had available for quite some time now the ability to put in and implement a budget for your revenue and expense accounts. And we use the budget management in General Ledger for that. So the way that works in Denali, for most of you who have been using budget management, we'll switch over to the General Ledger here and show you how that works. You bring up your budget management here, and when that loads up, you get your budget management screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up an existing budget that I'm currently working on, or the one that I have done for last year. And this brings up the budget management for last year. We'll just show the last year only, so it's not so confusing, because you can also show current year, future years, and prior years. And here is where you can set up, create, and edit an existing budget. Now, because I'm in last year, it's not going to let me change it because we're already past that year. If I bring up the current year budget, though, I do have the ability to go ahead and make changes, whatever I need to do with the current year's budget here. Edit the budget, and then I can go ahead and change those budget numbers for each period, or I can do an annual budget and just put in a total number for the entire year for the specific revenue or expense account that I'm working on there. Using budget management, there's several tools to quickly add general ledger accounts, which those of you who have the budget management system that are currently using Denali's General Ledger are familiar with how that's done. You can put in different accounts based on different parts of your organization. In this case, we're using fund accounting, so this is my administration budget, the budget for the administration fund only. But the idea behind this is, in the latest version of Denali, we just released a brand new tool called the WhatIf Analysis. And what that tool does is that gives you several more features and options in helping you create and or edit your budget, create new budgets and or edit an existing budget. Budgets are dynamic. Even throughout the year, things do change a lot of times. Case in point, this year right now, many businesses and nonprofit organizations have had to undergo extensive changes in their financing due to the coronavirus, COVID-19, that has been plaguing the entire world. And so therefore, people are having to change their forecasting and budgeting as a result of that. With the new what-if analysis, we can help with that, help you with your forecasting and with your budgeting in order to try to keep you on track, try to keep your revenues to be more realistic of what they're going to be, and try to help control the spending so that your bottom line doesn't get too far in the hole, or at least keep you in the black where you need to be. So with the budget management, we've got our budget already set up. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the new budget what-if analysis here in the General Ledger. And I'm going to use this new tool to help tweak my budget. So you can bring up an existing budget or a new budget that you're working on. So if I bring up an existing one, since I have one from last year, I'll bring that one up. Then this tool allows me Just like in the budget management, I can stretch out the size, make it bigger if I have a bigger workspace on my screen. This tool also allows me to go in and tweak my budget numbers in any one of the columns except for the actual and encumbered column. One thing I'll point out, the encumbered column does not show up unless you are using fund accounting, Denali's fund accounting. Without fund accounting, all you're going to see is the actual column, not the encumbered column. But you will still have the anticipated, which is your current budget, the remaining, and the percent that you still have left in the current budget that you haven't used yet. This is the first section of the WhatIf analysis, shows the annual numbers, anticipated, actual, encumbered, remaining, and percent. Now here's where this tool shines. In the budget management, you do have the option to enter an annual budget, and the system automatically calculates the period budget if you have the box checked that says annual for the annual amount. The WhatIf analysis, I don't need to check my annual box. I can still keep my period budgets in place, but then I can change my annual number. Let's say I'm going to increase the revenue to $325,000. Not $325. Let's make sure I put my decimals in the right spot. And the system automatically updates my period budgets to account for the $325,000 that I did. Now, in this first line, my period budgets was just an exact division of the annual amount divided by the number of periods. So let me see if I can find a line where that's not the case here. This is where the budget management can really shine for you. Let's say I have a budget where part of the year, I'll just make one up here, bank service charges, kind of a bad example, I know, but we'll go ahead and use that for an example here. The bank service charges, let's say in period one, which in my organization, period one is January for my administration fund, we're going to have $150 in bank service charges. Period two, we're going to have $125. Period three, $100. Period four, $100. Period five, $100. $150 in period six. Period seven. Period eight. $100 in 9. In 10. $125 in 11. And $150 in 12. And 0 in period 13 for those who are using the 13th period. Now, just like in the budget management, what I'm doing here is I'm creating a period budget, which is different month to month. It's not the exact same every month. But what I've done is I put in the amounts for each month, and it automatically gives me a total on the annual. But watch what happens now with the new budget WhatIf analysis. If I change my annual budget to say $2,000 instead of $1,500, the system will automatically recalculate how much of my annual budget I allocated to each period and refigure that allocation without just dividing it out by the period. So you still have your period budget intact, and it's reallocating the annual amount correctly across your periods, where each period is not the same amount. So that's one of the new features we have in this new WhatIf analysis tool, which the budget management is not capable of doing that at this point. However, your WhatIf analysis does that. Another great feature is, if I'm up here and I'm looking at this number here, I've got $500 for travel expenses budgeted. I've already used $450, so I only have $49.64 remaining. Well, the problem is I know for the rest of the year, I'm going to spend more than $49.64, which is going to put me over budget. But printing costs, I know I'm not going to need that much. So I can take part of what I need. I can say, okay, how much am I going to need for the rest of the year? I've already got $500 for total, for the entire year budgeted. But how much am I going to need for the rest of the year? Let's say I'm going to need $250 more for the rest of the year. So if I change the remaining to $250, it automatically updates my budget amount for the entire year to still give me a $250 amount remaining based on what I've already spent for the year. Now, I took that $250 away from printing, so I'm going to drop that down because I don't want my bottom line here to change. I want to still have a good profit percentage or excess revenue, net revenue over expenses. So I can take money from one budget that I know I'm not going to spend and move it to another budget here in the budget analysis if I am a user that is authorized to do so. And the budget WhatIf analysis will automatically recalculate my annual amounts for me based on what I need for the rest of the year. But what if I say, you know what? I don't know how much I'm going to need exactly, but I know I'm going to need about 75% remaining. Right now, there's 64% remaining. So I can even change the percent. And the system will automatically refigure what I need based on what I spent to give me 75% remaining. And again, it will also automatically allocate that remaining amount, well, the total amount that it recalculated. It'll automatically allocate that for me to, actually, this is 75% of what I've used. So if I need 50% of what I've used, let's read it that way. I was wondering, why did that number go down? That's because what I put here is how much have I used of my budget. I only want to have used 50% of my budget so far. So that's what I'll put. I only want to say that I've used 50%, and it'll recalculate the budget to give me that much left for remaining. Also, it will recalculate my period amounts as well. And I can do that on any one of my revenue and expense lines that I've got in my budget. Now, what's great about this tool is at the bottom of the screen, you'll notice here, the system will keep track of your total budgeted revenue, total budgeted expenses to give you a net profit. Or in fund accounting, we call that excess revenue over expenses. So as you're tweaking your numbers, you can keep an eye on your bottom line here at the bottom of the screen. This will also allow you it will also show you what your profit margin is going to be based on your current numbers that you've entered here. So you can change any one of these numbers in the budget WhatIf analysis. You can change the budget amount, the amount remaining in your budget, and it'll automatically update the budget, the percent that you have used of the budget, and it'll automatically update. Here's a good example here. I'm 158% of budget in my actual. Wow, that looks awful. Well, I better fix that. I don't want to go over 100%, so I'll just change that to 100%. And the system will automatically recalculate my budget to only show I've used 100% instead of going over budget. But now look what it did. Now it gave me an anticipated profit margin of a lower amount because I've now spent more money. So I've got to either increase my revenue or decrease my expenses somewhere else. So 100% there. Maybe I'll say we're not going to spend any more here. So I'll say I've already used 100% there. Now my numbers are going back up at the bottom again. So I can change the percentage, the amount remaining, the original budget on my annual column, or I can go over here and fine tweak my period budget as needed. When you look at the period budget too, as you point to each box, you get a little pop-up box off to the side that shows you what month that is, what the actual amounts were for that period only, not the entire year, and also what the encumbered amounts were. The entire year, you have the columns that show that here and here. But on the period, since we don't have the columns, you get a little box that pops out when you point to those. So that's the new features with the WhatIf tool. As you're entering the data, as you're putting in your budget, you're fine tweaking your budget, and you can edit those numbers along the way to make that happen. Now, once you've got your budget, you've got it tuned to where you want it to be, now you can print out your budget report. And what's great about this is you can print this report even before you finalized your budget in the budget management. So that's a new feature we just added, where you now have the ability to print out the budget before it's finalized so that you can submit that to the board or to the boss or whoever for approval if needed. So to do that, you just simply click the button print here, and the system will generate that report for you. I have mine going to the screen so you can actually see it rather than just sending it off to my printer. And then I get a report that shows me what I have done on my budget. Any amounts that I have checked the box that says annual, if I check the annual box, I just get an annual number here in the first column. But the ones I haven't checked annual, the system will show me each of the period amounts for my budget. So to show that, illustrate that. So if I bring up a new budget for this year, I can go ahead and print out the report. So here is my current year budget. And now the boxes I checked as annual, it shows me the annual amount, but not the period amount. And there you have it. So the ones that you've marked as annual, the lines you've marked as annual in the budget, the what if analysis, it just gives you the annual numbers on the report. But the lines you don't mark as annual, it still shows your period budget on the report. And if it's a budget that you're still working on, that you haven't finalized yet, like the one I just tried for last year, then you can check or uncheck these boxes as needed for that report to show either just the annuals or to break it down by period. But whether the box is checked or not, it does not stop you from editing any of the numbers in the annual or the period section. You can still change those numbers along the way as needed. And then you can submit that report to the board or to the boss, whoever you need to send that to, in order for them to approve your budget. And once that's approved, then you switch over to the budget management and you can save the budget from there. So to illustrate that, you just save to budget, and that will take the numbers that you have edited here in the budget analysis, the budget what if analysis. It will take those numbers and automatically apply them to your budget. Now, if your budget has already been finalized, the system will update those numbers to give you that as your current budget numbers, but it is still keeping track of your original finalized budget. Because remember, in the Denali budget management, any changes you make after finalizing your budget, those changes are always tracked. And that includes changes that are made through this new budget what if analysis tool. And the system will also track the user that made those changes. However, if your budget has not yet been finalized, the system will still save these numbers that you have tweaked to your current budget that's a work in process. And then you printed your report, it's come back, it's been approved. So now that that's been printed and approved, I can go ahead and save that to my budget. Now, what's great about this is I can save it to the existing budget, or at this point, I could actually create a whole new budget without overriding my existing budget that I used to bring up on the what if analysis here to fine tune it. So that way I can still have additional budget codes for that. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just save it over the top of my existing. Please enter a new budget code. So we will do administration 2. Admin 2. We'll get it in there. I'm going to keep the same description though, because this is going to be the budget I want to finalize. So I click OK. And now it has saved it to my budget. So now I go into budget management. I bring up the administration 2 code that I just saved, or whatever code you choose to save that under. And this is the code that I can go ahead and finalize. Edit. And there's the new numbers that I have tweaked. And I can go ahead and finalize that budget to lock it in for the year. At this point, I can still use my budget management to change those numbers. But the what if analysis gives you all the extra features you need to edit those numbers in any of the columns and also give you the bottom line. All right, so how do you get this new Denali budget what if analysis tool that we've added, the additional tools and features to help you generate and create your budget? Well, all you have to do is make sure that you are on Denali 2020 version 1. Make sure your current version in your Denali system is version 10.4.0.77 or later, and that version will include the new Denali what if analysis tool for your budget. If you need to update to that version, to our latest version, just simply go over to our service website and you can download the updates from there. Also, if you need any assistance in installing your updates, then please contact your Cougar Mountain representative and we can definitely help you with getting that update done. If you have any other questions about the new WhatIf Analysis tool, or any other questions that you need help with in the Denali system, then give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Any comments that you want to make, any suggestions for us, we would love to hear those. You can email us at sales@cougarmountain.com or call the Cougar Mountain service line. You can also go to our website, service.cougarmountain.com. Go back to the previous slide here, the website here, and you can leave your feedback there as well. Thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure telling you all about our new Budget WhatIf Analysis tool. Hope to hear from you guys and hope that you get a lot of use out of the new tool. Any questions, like I say, just give us a call and we would love to help you. Thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day and stay happy and healthy.